Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know getting a room full of BFSI leaders together at 10 a.m. is no small achievement. So we are especially grateful that you've chosen to spend the next hour with us. And like I mentioned, welcome to what promises to be a fascinating conversation on reimagining customer experience with AI and hyper-personalization. Now customer expectations have changed dramatically over the last few years. Today, if our food delivery is running 5 minutes late, we are already, refreshing our app every 30 seconds. Netflix, yeah, Netflix knows what we want to watch next. Spotify somehow knows our mood, and Instagram occasionally knows what we are thinking before we, probably even had that thought, which is impressive and also, slightly terrifying. So naturally, customers are asking a very, very fair question. If every digital experience in my life is becoming so much smarter, faster, and more personal, why should my banking, insurance, or my wealth management experience be any different? And that's really what today's conversation is about. Because, in BFSI, customer experience is no longer just about service, it's about relevance, it's about timing, it's about trust. And increasingly, it's about, understanding customers, not just as segments, but as individuals. So AI and hyper personalization are making that possible at a scale we couldn't have probably imagined, a few years ago. But they also raise some very, very important questions. How much personalization is really helpful? What does it, when does it really become intrusive? And how do we really balance this innovation with privacy or responsibility? And perhaps, most importantly, how do we create experiences that kind of feel more human, even as they become more AI powered? And to help us, unpack all of this, I'm delighted to be joined by leaders who bring very different but highly complementary perspectives to this discussion. Joining us, we have Amit Kumar Soni, who's the founder and CEO of Mindax. He is a human-centered AI leader and a formal global learning lead at PepsiCo. And what I particularly appreciate about Amit's work is, while everyone is talking about AI, Amit consistently brings the conversation back to people because, no matter how sophisticated the algorithm becomes, the customer experience is still fundamentally a human experience. So I'm really looking forward to his perspective, on how we keep humans at the center of AI powered journeys. Welcome, Amit. And finally, we are also joined by Dr. Saro Velrajan, who is the principal consultant at Ginkgo's India. Dr. Saro brings extensive experience in transformation and consulting, and perhaps, most importantly, in helping organizations bridge the gap between ambition and execution. Because let's be honest, most organizations, they don't struggle with AI, AI ideas. Ideas are in plenty. They struggle with, with making those ideas actually work. So we are delighted to have your perspective with us today as well, Dr. Saro. So with that, let's get straight into the question that's really the heart of today's discussion. Let's dive straight in. So let me start with the phrase itself, hyper-personalization. It sounds exciting, it sounds powerful, and like most things in AI, it can also mean 10 different things to 10 different people. We all know that. So my first question to both of you is, when we say hyper-personalization in BFSI, what does it really mean today? And how is it different from, traditional segmentation of rule-based personalization that, financial institutions have relied on for years?
Thank you, Rupali. I think appreciate your introduction, context, and very excited to be part of here. So thank you so much. So yeah, I think hyper personalization. If Dr. Saro, it is okay if I can start with. Yeah, thank you. So when I think about hyper personalization, I think about moving from treating customer as a group to understand them as an individual, because hyper is very, very specific to what is in it for me kind of thought process, right? So traditionally, banks have relied on segmentations. For example, customer between 30 to 40 years old with certain income level might receive some kind of offers, right? But in the reality, people are very different, right? So one person maybe plan to buy a house, maybe other person may be saving for retirement, and third maybe starting a business. That is where that AI can help a lot in the space of BFSI, right? So AI allow us to understand these differences and provide this support that is relevant specific person's situations. So for me, hyper personalization is not about selling more products. It's about helping customers make better financial decisions, right, at the right moment and the right times. So when call this as a human-centered AI become important because the focus should always be the human needs behind the data. Data will support that need, but focus should be always human because we are here to sell something to human, and human is doing the business with human. AI is not doing the business with anything else. So hyper personalization should be with human, but plus with AI. So that is something which I can get started with.
Absolutely. So would it be fair to say that we are moving from, people like you may want this, remember the notifications that we used to get, or maybe to, based on your context, this is relevant to you right now.
Absolutely. See, right now you see all the LLMs today, they have been trained to make you more personalized experience, right? That has been they've been working on it. So if you ask anything, so there is a word called context engineering in the space of AI. What does it mean? It is actually contextualize output based on your background, your understanding, your needs, right? That could be a very effective in the space of BFSI segmentation because see, whenever we have people who has some kind of criteria and rules, and I consider BFSI is one of the area where the everything is on money and finance and data, which is more structured in the place. That could be a very good game changer from calling from the personalization front, even not even the hyper personalization, but even for the personalization front of you, right? So that is where this could be a I can say the differentiator in the space of BFSI.
Yeah, I love that thought, Amit, especially the idea that personalization should feel helpful rather than, being intrusive. Dr. Saro, let me come to you. When you work with organizations, how often do you see that vision, translating into reality? Where are companies getting it right and where are they struggling?
Okay. So actually, Amit was making a very interesting observation on getting the right products at the right time to the customers, right? So that's all hyper personalization is all about. And clients BFS in the BFSI area, they are quite comfortable with the traditional customer segmentation, where it was all done based on demographics, right? Age, income, geographic location, and factors like that. But that was not getting the results that they were expecting. Now, of course, for example, a leading client of mine who is in the life insurance business, traditionally they were targeting customers with 24 different life insurance products. While it was working for them all along, but like Amit rightly said, the needs of customers have changed quite a bit. So the services have to be heavily customized for every single customer. Now, with the advent of AI and analytics, we are able to target different products for helping different customers. And now the very same life insurance company is looking at how to do mass customization of the insurance products based on the needs of every single customer. So where companies are getting it right is the companies that are using AI effectively, the companies that are able to break all those data silos and get them all aggregated to make it available for AI applications and services. They are able to crack it well. The companies that are getting stuck are the ones who are not able to, first of all, improve the quality of the AI, the systems, or the improving the quality of the data that is available, checking whether the data is of high integrity or not, whether the data is accessible for all the AI tools and services or not. So these are the areas where companies are lagging in terms of personalizing services to different customers. But the ones who get it right are the ones who are able to solve these problems.
Yeah, I Yeah, I love the fact that both of you are approaching this from a slightly different angles, but arriving at a very similar conclusion. Amit, you are talking about understanding the individual behind the data, while Dr. Saro, you're talking about the infrastructure and analytics that is required to make that possible at scale. So it seems like hyper personalization is really where human understanding meets technological capability. Let me build on that. There's a very popular saying in customer experience that customers don't compare you to their competitors, they compare you to the best experience they've had anywhere. And that's especially true today. A customer may compare their banking app not just with another bank, but let's say they will compare it to a Netflix, Amazon, Uber, or even a Zepto. So my question is, are BFSI institutions now competing with the digital native platforms when it comes to customer expectations? And if yes, what does that mean for how financial institutions need to design customer journeys?
So I agree with your point in terms of customers not just comparing the available services with another competitor in the very same space, but what they are getting in other segments, right? For example, all the retail organizations are way too advanced in terms of personalizing services for customers. And I see some changes happening in the NBFC space. For example, micro lending or providing loans to customers which is heavily personalized for them. For example, what I can think of is Airtel Money. So Airtel Money now has completely automated the loan disbursement process, and they are able to do KYC digitally, and they are able to do credit checks digitally by looking at CIBIL score, and they are also able to check their banking transaction and find out debt to income ratio and all these metrics for risk assessment. They are able to get contracts signed digitally through the documentation type of contracting type of services, and they are also able to issue loan and transfer that to the bank account in less than 30 minutes, right? If you look at even just the fintech market in India, I think I read somewhere that nearly 2.9 lakh crores worth of money was disbursed to customers through loans in the first 6 months of 2026. And that was a 45% jump when compared to what was done in the previous year, right? So we see a lot of clients embracing this, and I personally see NBFCs are able to move faster than the traditional large BFSI organizations.
Yeah, that's a great example, Dr. Soro, because what you are really highlighting is that customers are no longer comparing experiences with categories. Like we mentioned before, they're comparing experiences across categories. Basically, what we are saying is if I can get a loan approved in minutes, track a delivery in real time, and receive highly personalized recommendations elsewhere, naturally, I'm expecting the same level of convenience from my financial institution as well. Amit, let me get your perspective on this. As customer expectations continue to rise, do you think BFSI organizations need to rethink customer journeys from the ground up, or is it, more about layering AI into the existing processes?
No, absolutely. So I would like to build on what Dr. Saro was mentioning about in terms of experiencing building with other. So, customer experience, customers are no longer comparing the banking experience with other bank, right? So they are comparing every experience with the best digital experience they can have had recently. So they're comparing with like Zepto, Swiggy, Zomato, right? They are already having very hyper personalized experience. Like they remember your last order, they remember. So think about if Netflix can recommend exactly what I want to watch, if Amazon can predict what I may need next, if Uber can tell me exactly where my driver is, then naturally customer expected the same level of simplicity and personalization from their bank as well. That is the trend is going right now, right? So the challenge is that financial services are inherently more complex than ordering groceries or booking cabs, right? People are making decisions about their savings, investments, insurance, mortgages, retirements. These are highly trusted, high trust, high consequences decisions. So I don't think banks should try to become Netflix or Amazon. I think banks should learn from them. The lesson
Yeah.
is not the technology. It's like lesson is the reduction of the friction. right? So for example, if I'm applying for a home loan, I'm just giving what Dr. Saro was also mentioning is, if I'm applying for a home loan, I should not have to fill the same information multiple times across different channels, right? Nowadays it is becoming very easier. I can give couple of examples, like when I compare the experiences. So now imagine if I open up my banking app as a customer, I expect the same level of convenience like what I was mentioning. But suppose if I regularly pay school fees, have a loans to pay, maintain investment with the banks, what happen is, instead of showing me generic offers, bank could proactively say, Amit, based on your spending savings pattern, you may be able to increase your monthly SIP by 55,000 without impacting your cash flow. Those kind of intelligence should be part of it right now, because people like nowadays, like there are multiple apps, because these intelligence apps are coming into the market, right? A very good example I can say right now, ICICI banks, I like call this IPL, and HDFC Bank, there is a EVA, right? There's a bot enabled customer experience platforms inside their app. So already started using AI to improve customer interactions. That is already happening. The next evolution is moving from answering customer questions to proactively helping customers to make better financial decisions. I think if we can move into those lines, which will helping customers to solve something, specifically getting more money or saving more money and getting more interest, that could be a really game changer in terms of the customer experience platforms.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, Amit. Customers don't really care whether the experience is powered by AI, analytics, or 100 different technologies behind the scenes. What they care about is whether the experience is, simple, relevant, and with as much as less friction as possible. And that kind of, brings us nicely to the next part of our discussion. We've spoken about the promise of hyper personalization and changing customer expectations. Let's now talk about, where it's actually creating measurable impact. Can each of you share a example either from your own work or from the industry where AI-led personalization has genuinely improved customer experience or business outcomes? And I'd love for these examples to go beyond, campaign click-through rates or marketing matrix, something that, improved customer satisfaction, service quality, faster resolution, fraud prevention, retention, anything.
Yeah, I can go first. So I want to talk about a case study from Netherlands, and there is a company called Bridge Fund. Now, in the legacy world where we were relying on data, which was manually processed for risk assessment, and it took a long time for processing loans. And moreover, for example, my plumber wouldn't have credit history at all, right? Which is verifiable. Probably my plumber has some bank statements that can be verified, but he wouldn't have a CIBIL score. Probably his CIBIL score is very low. Or fresh graduates who are joining the workforce, their CIBIL score will be very low, right? So Bridge Fund took this problem statement for SME, small medium enterprises, because they may not have rich credit history that is needed for availing a loan. And what Bridge Fund did with the use of AI and through hyper personalization is took all the banking transactions, got all the data from Chamber of Commerce, got all the news footprint or social media data set, and they were able to come up with a risk score based on these non-traditional parameters. And in the past, it was not possible, but with AI, and we can look at all these parameters to customize services for customers. And Bridge Fund was able to process nearly 200 millions worth of loans for SMEs, right? We couldn't have imagined this in the absence of AI, but now that we have AI, we are able to get access to all these data and process them almost in real time, and able to help a lot of small and medium enterprises, right? So that's the case study that comes to my mind when it comes to use of AI for heavily personalizing experience for customers, at the same time bringing in measurable returns.
Yeah, that's a fascinating example, Dr. Saurabh, because what you are really highlighting is that, AI is not just improving personalization for existing customers, it's actually expanding access by, helping institutions make better decisions for customers who may have been, underserved by traditional models, like you said. And I think that's where the real power of AI comes in, not just by making processes faster, but by making them smarter and more inclusive. Amit, I'd love to get your perspective on this. Dr. Saro's example highlights how AI can look beyond traditional data points and create better outcomes. Is there an example that you've seen where AI-driven personalization, genuinely has improved the customer meaning and customer experience in a meaningful way?
Yeah, sure. So I think definitely whenever ultimately AI should be measured by business impact. Simple, right? And customer impact, not by how sophisticated agentic AI, the fancy words people are nowadays using for in the space of AI. That is very, very different thing. So let me share three examples. I think it is coming in top of my mind. The first one is from the banking industry. So I think like couple of months back, I designed one program for senior citizen, AI for senior citizen. And what I was doing in that particular program was I was helping senior citizen to get aware of the frauds because the senior citizens are more affected by the frauds using AI. So many banks today use AI to detect unusual transactions, patterns, potential fraud in the real time. Traditionally, fraud detection happened after the transaction, right? Which often meant a customer had already experienced financial loss. So today, AI can identify suspicious behavior within a second, either alert the customers or temporarily pause the transaction. So I have seen couple of banking industries are actually doing a lot of investment in the space of fraud detections. Like from the business perspective, it reduces the fraud losses. From the customer perspective, it increases the trust. Think about it. So if I will be trusting more one bank who's helping me to save my money because of I am not getting into the fraud, right? So this is one of the biggest example I can say in terms of banking. It is always about trust, and AI can
Yeah.
help you into that, right? Now, second example is more about specific to the customer services department, right? Because I worked in the industries where we were as a part of consulting organizations, and we used to have a lot of clients, and so one of the frustrations customers often have repeating the same information every time they interact with the bank, right? Like think about if it is interacting with the bank, they will have to answer every question. Well, so you remember that when you get into the customer care call, there is a robot talking to you and asking, click this, click that, right? I saw there is a very nice in an Amex, like American Express, they are using the voice level of authentication. So you just need to speak one word and they identify you, oh, you're real Amit. That's the reason that they just skip all the quick queue and then get into the real what I really looking forward to hear it. I experienced this when I was in, I think, US, and I was trying to get money from my ATM and I was struggling something and I was not because my SIM was not working internationally. So there was a feature where you can use a app and there is an internet-based calling that is also so something like that could be a very, very great game changer. So now for me, trust is I will be using this app because every time when I'm traveling, that could be my first time. Now, last example I would love to because let me share some examples specifically from Mindex, like how we use AI personalization learning and capability development journeys. So earlier employees often receive the same learning content regardless of their role. That has been passed. Like last 2 3 years, I've seen a lot of AI adoptions. Not AI adoption, AI personalization was happening already. So AI help us identify individual learning needs, recommend the right content at the right time. You can see the example of Coursera, edX. Now they are moving into the space of hyper personalized customer experience. I'm not talking about the learning experience. What we found was interesting is the biggest outcome was not just higher course completion, it was higher engagement, like how many people are actually learning the content. So whenever we just go into the space of AI, right, AI trainings, then only one thing I always say, AI is not about tools, it's more about how you connect the dot with your use cases. That is where AI can help you with. So customer don't necessarily want more information because the information is all more loaded. They want experience that are relevant and timingly useful for their existing workflows or existing rules, right? So that is something which we can use it with AI as well as a customer experience point of view.
Yeah, I have to admit, if someone can save me from remembering my customer ID, account number, date of birth, mother's maiden name, favorite color, half of my life story before speaking to a human being, I'm already a happy customer. But jokes apart, I think both of your examples highlight something really important. AI isn't helping, just institutions sell better. It's helping them serve better. Whether, it's preventing fraud, simplifying authentication, improving access to credit, or, making interactions more seamless. The goal isn't personalization for the sake of personalization. It's creating experiences that are more relevant, more intuitive, and ultimately more human. And what's interesting is that none of this happens without data. In fact, if personalization is the outcome, data is the engine that is powering it all. But in BFSI, data comes with a huge responsibility. So let me take this conversation in that direction. Data may be, the fuel behind personalization, but trust is the currency, like we spoke before. So how should organizations, think about building the right data foundations while ensuring customers feel informed, protected, and respected?
So I think companies in the BFSI space should learn from companies like Google. Okay, we all have trusted Google with pretty much all of our personal information, right from our Aadhaar card to all IDs are all available in our Google Drive or in the Gmail. We have trusted them with all the photographs, and we have. I mean, Google has access to pretty much all people, all kinds of data for the last 20, 30 years, right? Now, the challenge is to establish the same level of trust in the banking industry because, like all of us know, banks are using applications that are like 20 years old, bulk of them running in still mainframe computers. Data is spread across at least like a few dozen systems. So these are the challenges that are ahead in front of BFSI organizations and how they can better have control over this is having an data infrastructure that is almost very highly scalable and has all real-time data, and it also is highly secure and ensures that there are mechanisms like identity and access management kind of solutions for role-based access control and preventing data silos, pulling in data into a location that is accessible for all, right? Now, some of my clients have already achieved handle the data silo problem by moving bulk of their data into cloud, and that's where they are running their apps also. Now, the challenge that is ahead of them is who has access to the data? Are the right people having access to the data for building AI and ML applications? So that's where the challenge is, right? So who gets access to the data for how long and for what kind of task, and how it should be shared with even third parties, right? Banks, many of the banks also rely on technology service providers for building these applications. What kind of access we can give to them, right? So governance is a very critical part of BFSI organizations to embrace AI ML services because, like you rightly said, data is the one that is fueling all these innovations, right? So data is maintaining data safe and secure and protecting customers' PII information, right? Personal identifiable information.
Yeah.
So all of that has to be preserved. And this is also varying across different geographies. Different geographies have different rules, regulations, and you need to customize it for them, right? For example, India, as part of our DPDP policy, all data of Indian customers have to be maintained in India itself, right? So all of these considerations are the challenges that BFSI organizations have to solve to ensure that they can continue to innovate and stay ahead in the curve.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, Dr. Saro. Customers, are often willing to share data when they trust, the institution and clearly understand the value that they are getting in return. In many ways, trust basically isn't built by collecting more data. It's built by, using that data responsibly. Amit, I'd love your perspective on this from a human-centered AI lens. So we often talk about, privacy, consent, and governance from an organizational standpoint, but from a customer standpoint, what actually, builds trust? Is it transparency? Is it control over their data? Or is it seeing, tangible, let's say, value from personalization? Or is it, something else entirely?
Right. So I think what you mentioned, transparency, customer control, but I would love to add two more areas today is very important for anyone to know, not from the BFSI, but also from every industry. It's called responsible AI and AI governance. And that is where this human-centered AI kind of focused on, right? So let me just think about from the customer point of view. Right now, I'm giving you the information that if I'm a customer, if sharing my information helps me to get better fraud protection, faster service, more relevant financial advice, or quick loan approvals, I'm generally comfortable with that, right? That's a AI for good, right? You're using your data for betterment, right? The challenge begins when customers don't understand how their data is being used,
Yeah.
how decisions are being made. That's the biggest flaws, right? And that is where the trust starts erode. So when I think about building the right data foundations for AI, I think about four things. And I'm giving this example based on my experiences working with multiple organizations. I started my career as a Larsen and Toubro. We have more than 2 lakh employees. Then I moved into the Salesforce, 60,000. Now PepsiCo was 3 lakh employees globally, right? So see the amount of data for employee or even systems we have for the organization. Take about the banking example as well. Like many large banks have more than 1 lakh employees, right? Employees are one, but there's so many billions of customers, right? Like they are also dealing with the data. So the intensity is huge right now for the data. Now the challenge for all of this organization is they need to understand, even though you call this data as a fuel, but
Yeah.
what does it mean as a fuel? So there is a categorization of data, like data cleanliness you need to do. Like where when is still a lot of banks today they are doing the physical form based opening account opening things, which means you're
Yeah.
collecting the lot of unstructured data and you're converting to the structured data, right?
Yeah.
So when I think about building the right data foundation for AI, I think one is of transparency. The number one is customers should know what data is being collected, why it is being collected. And I think nowadays we are seeing it is getting more better because we are doing this Aadhaar card based KYCs.
Yeah.
Because you have those kind of enablement is already in place. Even retina based KYCs are also open right now. So we often talk about explainable AI in the industry, but from the customer perspective, it is much simpler, right? So in the space of AI, we call this explainable AI, right? Now, the second thing is customer control. Customers should feel ownership of their data. Because right now, see, if somebody is taking my Aadhaar card, getting my KYC done from opening up the account or getting the SIM, I don't know, like who is gonna use my data and where I is gonna. Nowadays, you're getting that messaging, or your KYC has been reviewed by this bank. That is great. I think that is the customer control we are talking about. So the more control people have, the more comfortable they become with AI powered experience. Because today there is a huge destructive SMS services are there. You can get so many SMSs every day and you lose so much of important communication. So if you can create very concise way of communicating some specific key messages using maybe a mobile WhatsApp nowadays very popular getting it, right? So you can get some of the very specific communications with authorized WhatsApp based. Now moving into the responsible AI and AI governance, and this is becoming increasingly very important right now because this is my research topic. I am doing the research on the responsible AI, and I've been learning about what Dr. Saro was talking about DPDP. There is a Manav framework in India. We have recently launched in AI India Summit. EU Act is one of them, very popular nowadays in the global organizations. So organizations need to ensure AI systems are fair, unbiased, right, and secure and aligned with human values. So that aligned with human values are very, very important. Because, for example, if AI is being used in lending or underwriting or credit scoring, we need to continuously ask, is it model fair? What basis this credit score is happening? What is the creating like what is the treating customer similar customer consistency, right? So all of these things needs to be very, very clear, and that is where the banks needs to take care of it, right? Responsible AI is not just about regulatory compliance; it's about protecting customer and protecting the trust. And the last
Yeah.
one is very important is AI governance. Right now, it is not by law, but in the BFSI, it is very important because AI becomes more powerful. Every day you are seeing there is a new model is coming, very powerful. There are so many tools are coming. Governance becomes non-negotiable today because you think about like I'm just going to give you some of the technical words like AI governance framework. Generally, how does it look like? Data governance is number one for them. Model validation is number two, which model you're risking. Human oversight, human in the loop, generally we call this, right? There is a regulatory compliance, which has always been there, and ongoing monitor. It is not like one time fits all, right? You have to continuously, because technology is changing, and if technology is changing like Ferrari speed. Are you able to ride the Ferrari car, or you're still getting into the bus and train right now? So people
Yeah.
think break slow you down because there are so many things are already happening. Actually, sometimes you have to take a break, and that is where the every car has a brake system as well, right? So good brakes allow you to drive faster with confidence. So that is what I wanted to give into this particular angle.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amit. And that's an interesting perspective. And I think one thing we've all learned from this discussion is that, customers don't necessarily have a problem with sharing data. They have a problem, with not knowing what's happening to it. And, let's be honest, most of us scroll through a 15-page privacy policy, click, I agree, and then hope for the best. But, in BFSI, hope is not a governance strategy. The trust has to be earned, protected, and continuously reinforced. And which brings me to another technology that is rapidly shaping customer interactions, that is our favorite, generative AI. So what's so what's fascinating is, which we've spoken about using AI to understand customers better, anticipate needs, reduce friction, and build trust. Generative AI now has the potential to make those interactions even more conversational, intuitive and personalized. But unlike recommending the next movie to watch or the next product to buy, financial services operate in a very, very different environment. The stakes are much higher. A wrong movie recommendation is harmless, but a wrong financial recommendation is not at all harmless. So my question to the both of you is, where do you see the most practical and valuable, near-term applications of generative AI in customer journeys? And equally, where should organizations be careful, not to rush?
Okay. So I'll talk about where it is getting used by some of my clients. It's actually heavily getting used in simplifying the customer onboarding process. Because like Amit rightly mentioned, even today, several banks, insurance companies are collecting data from customers in paper forms. And traditionally, they were all converted into PDFs, and somebody would scan the PDF, or they were using RPA type of robotic process automation type of tools for processing them. Now with generative AI, that's becoming much more simplified. You can read any kind of document and convert that into digital format, and you can, through model context protocol, you can share that data with any system. So the customer onboarding process is getting automated by several organizations. So that is one area where AI is getting used quite a bit, beyond the traditional, the chat-based customer support or customer service kind of use cases. In developed countries, for example, in US, generative AI is also getting used for providing wealth management advice. While you rightly said we can't make mistakes there, but that's becoming very popular because traditionally customers were paying 1%, 2% commission for or service charge for the human agents who are providing advice. Now the robo advisors are getting quite popular. There is a company called Betterment and Charles Schwab. These companies have these robo advisors, and the customers pay just 0.5% as service charge. That's like almost 1/4 of the money that they pay for a human agent. And today, the reality is even the human agent makes mistake. The human advisors also make mistakes, right? The human advisors can't predict it with 100% accuracy. And so is the case for generative AI. But the caveat in the case of generative AI is the hallucination problem, where it can at times go bizarre and
Yeah.
become more creative in offering wealth or investment advices. that requires a little bit of human oversight, right? So, these are the areas where I think the customer onboarding and even wealth management advice, generative AI is getting increased adoption beyond the traditional customer service and support related use cases.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting point, Dr. Saro, because for a long time, we've viewed Gen AI primarily through the lens of, productivity and efficiency. But what you're describing are use cases that are, directly impacting the customer experience, faster onboarding, quicker access to services, and even probably, democratizing the access to financial advice. And I have to say, the idea of getting wealth management advice at 1/4 of the cost is certainly, probably going to get people's attention. Amit, let me come to you. Dr. Saro has highlighted where Gen AI can create tremendous value. But where do you think organizations need to be careful? What are the guardrails that, BFSI institutions should be thinking before putting Gen AI directly, in front of customers?
So I believe that organizations should be very cautious about fully automating high stakes financial decisions right now, right? Because see, generative AI was there for 3 years back. Now we are moving to the agentic AI, right? Predictive AI. Now, whenever we move into this very high, and it is not we are moving, it has been industries moving right now. For everyone is talking about agentic AI. Genetic AI has been there and people are already using it. Now, for example, I'm just trying to give you some examples in terms of how it can be, organization should need to be very careful. One is credit approvals, right? Like investment recommendations. If you think about, if you get the wrong credit approval for someone, what can be happened using your technologies? Like underwriting decisions, right? Like there are, for example, whenever somebody is asking for loan, based on what criteria you're, so if you are automated everything into the systems using AI, if AI is taking care of everything, are you really sure whether it can help you to become more explainable in the later stages, which is required? Because in the AI there is still one word called black box AI, which means you don't know what is going behind the scene in the generative AI. So if you ask something in that AI, give me the financial advice, wealth management advice, where this data is coming from, what level of context has been given, where this, you don't know because it's generated by LLM, right? So generative AI can support the decision making process, but humans should remain accountable for final outcome. That
Yeah.
is something, one of the important element, because and I can say today there's another word is hallucination. Whether I don't know. So generative AI can sometimes sound extremely confident while being completely wrong. And I've seen many cases. It is in a casual setting, it may be inconvenient, but in financial services, that can be dangerous, right? Like this is why governance, validation, and guardrails become very essential, right? So that is where I think I always integrate like that human centeredness should be always there for anything. And that is where in Mindex we call this human centered AI, can answer a questions, doesn't mean to should make the decision. So you need to make someone who can take the decision as a human, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Amit, I love that distinction. AI can assist decision making, but accountability cannot be outsourced. And, perhaps that's where the future lies. It's not AI versus humans, but AI and humans working together, especially, in high trust industries like BFSI. Because I'm happy for AI to recommend a movie to me, but I'm not sure I'm ready to let it decide my entire retirement plan completely on its own. Thank you, Amit. I think that's a very important note to end this segment on. AI can support decision making, but accountability still rests with humans. Before we open it up with the audience, I'd love one quick closing thought from the both of you. Complete this sentence in one line. The future of customer experience belongs to organizations that. Dr. Sara, let me start with you.
That master data management.
Awesome. And what about you, Amit?
Educate your human first and then AI.
Awesome. Awesome. So wonderful. We've covered hyper-personalization, customer expectations, trust, data governance, and generative AI, and I now love to hear from our audience. I think we have a couple of questions. Um, I have the first question is that the human advisor relationship has long been the gold standard of personalized financial guidance. And as AI becomes more capable, how do you see the role of relationship managers, wealth advisors, and frontline staff evolving? And where does the human touch become irreplaceable?
So I'll take the example of one of my clients in the insurance space, and the problem that they are handling currently is a huge churn in their front line executives or agents who are selling products and services to the customers, or who are taking care of customer relationship and products advice, right? So now when new people join this organization, how do you ensure that they are knowledgeable on all the services and all the offerings from this client, right? And especially with hyper personalization, there is scope for several dozens of products and services for the customers. Now, AI will be very helpful in ramping up this workforce on providing financial education first to their internal employees. And AI will serve as a novice assistant to the frontline agent, where he or she can get access to all the information in their fingertips, and they can use that for making the product or service recommendations to the customer, right? So AI is not going to replace these financial advisors or the frontline agents, but it will help them to become more productive. It will help them to become more knowledgeable. That's what I see in at least the mid-size and the large-size BFSI organizations.
Yeah, awesome. And that's a wonderful point to make, Dr. Saro. I particularly like the idea of AI acting as a co-pilot for frontline employees rather than just replacing them, because ultimately customer experience is still delivered through people. Moving on, I have another question. Maybe Amit, you can take this. AI models are only as good as the data they are trained on. And in BFSI, historical data often reflects decades of systemic inequality. So, how do you actively de-bias your models and ensure that personalization does not inadvertently, entrench or amplify existing disparities in the financial access?
So first of all, this is very intelligent question. Who has asked this question? Kudos to you. Like amazing
Yeah,
question.
we'd love for your name, whoever is,
Yeah.
asked this
So,
question.
like, see, this is my favorite. So bias in AI is not just a technology problem. It's a human problem, right? That's a very important. So the one question is always, are we ready to adopt AI? I know we have invested for technologies. We have got a Claude, one of the best model in the world right now. They've launched Fable 5 2 days back. Amazing model, right? So AI often learns from the historical data. That's true. And historical data may contain human biasness, business biasness, societal biasness, right? Like that have accumulated over many years. So if you are not careful, AI can definitely unintentionally scale those biases. The first step is acknowledging the biases exist. That is the first thing which we need to remember, right? Sometimes organizations assume that because decisions is made by algorithm, it must be objective, but it is not always true, because the data is going into the model is biased and the outcome can also be biased. That should be very clear. So this is the first step need to be acknowledged. The second is responsible AI requires continuous testing. So it is not like you implement it and you go away. You have to test. You have to test multiple use case. Are the similar customers being treated similarly? Are certain groups of being systematically like all of those things could be very, very important. Now, third stage is definitely if you talk about the data segmentation, there is a ways to do this. Data cleaning, data structuring, data. There are many ways to do it. But in terms of AI, you can also create some kind of agents which has some guardrails. So you can create some kind of creations where because I've been more into that AI, so I can see there are a lot of prompts in the space of context engineering and prompt engineering. You can guardrail those kind of interventions. If you are unsure about information, don't do it. Versus you should include human in that particular process. Those kind of interventions can be also part of design phase of your AI implementation. That is where we focus on, let's focus on human, and then we map into this. So always very, very important. That is for every BFSI or any industry is focus on outcome, not just accuracy. Because many organizations focus on building the most accurate model. That is not the right way. But accuracy is also not enough. But you need to think about, are we solving what I've been meant for it? Is it model fair for my need? Because every model has a different way of treating for different use cases. That's where most of the organizations are failing implementing AI, because they are not able to understand, okay, which model is good for my level of data and how I can train that, or what level of human intervention is required. So there are many ways to get into this, but I just wanted to conclude this. It's very simple. You need to ask, can AI make better decisions than human? If yes, then you should include AI. If you're feeling that
Yeah.
still no, that means completely you need to use human final decision making, even though you have implemented best model in the world.
Yeah, I think that's reassuring for all of us, Amit, because it seems that even in an AI-powered future, critical thinking isn't going out of fashion anytime soon. Let's take the last question. There is an article I read on AI eating AI. With AI being used for everything, how do we ensure the authenticity of information we are consuming when it's a derived output from different sources?
That's a good question. Yeah, Dr. Saurabh, please continue.
Okay. So garbage in, garbage out, right? So that's the philosophy that guides generative AI. So if the source is corrupted, if the source has lots of bias, like Amit rightly mentioned, and if the source has inaccuracies, then that will be carried forward to the output that is generated by AI also. And Amit mentioned about explainable AI, right? So now all the leading AI service providers are also trying to keep it transparent. So they are providing references to the source from where the content got generated, right? So again, with human oversight, you'll be able to validate the source of the information before you start consuming it. And that is my recommendation to ensure that you are able to maintain that authenticity.
Yeah, just wanted to add one more line into this. As like, in the past we taught our people to search for information, but today's information is overloaded. You don't need to search, you will get it. Now we
Yeah.
are teaching our people to validate information, because you know what level of information is been generating every day today, which has been taken 10 years. If we are
Yeah.
generating that level of information in one day. So what Dr. Saru was mentioning about whether AI provides an answer, we should always ask, where did this information come from? Where source supports it? It is current. And there are ways to do it, by the way. If you know AI very well, you can figure it out. You can find out it easily. This is fake versus this is real. And there are prompts has been designed to do this, to make that kind of happen. So it is possible, but the current AI, the current LLM has not been trained to do that. You have to use a little tweak based prompt, which can make that happen for you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I have to say that probably that's one of my biggest takeaways from today's discussion. For years, we've taught people how to search for information. Increasingly, we are going to have to teach people how to validate information, as you and Dr. Saro have very rightly mentioned. And perhaps that's one of the most important skills that we need to learn in, an AI powered world today. Um, I think this with this we can wonderfully are reaching towards the end of the session. Um, yeah, so for me, like I said, one of the takeaways is that, AI is not just changing how BFSI institutions serve customers, it's also changing how deeply, they can understand customers. And thank you so much, Dr. Saro and Amit. This was a very rich and energizing conversation. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to not simply make the customers click faster, buy faster, or transact faster. The goal is to make customers feel, understood, protected, and empowered. And a big thank you once again to our incredible panelists, Amit and Dr. Saro, for sharing your insights
you.
so generously. And thank you to our wonderful audience for being part of this conversation the first thing in the morning. We hope this sparks many more discussions, on how AI can help us reimagine the future of customer experience in BFSI. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day ahead. Also, before we wrap up, I'd like to remind everyone that this conversation is a part of KNOLSKAPE's AI BFSI Learning Week. We still have 2 more exciting sessions lined up later today. At 2 p.m., we'll be discussing the future of work in BFSI, and at 5 p.m., we'll have a panel on AI and productivity. If the discussion we've had now has sparked new ideas or questions to you, I'd strongly encourage you to join us for these sessions as well. We'd love to have you there. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Rupali. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks for keeping the energy alive, Rupali.
Yeah, yes, always.
No,
Thank you
okay.
so much, Dr. Saro.
Bye-bye.
We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.